It's WG, bring your SMB, and welcome to the Formless. So, the Formless is our newest prophecy boss, which means in this video we'll be taking a look at all the abilities and do already potential team building, as well as briefly talk about how the mode works, because as we all know, it's only gonna get interesting in 2 days time when we finally get the nightmare mode, which allows us to set 3 teams. But we can already speculate and think about what units might and might not be useful for this boss as a whole. So that is what we're also going to be starting with. So we have the Formless, which is kind of like this robotic arm with a bunch of claws. So let's check out what he can do. We'll go from the back to the front. Here we have the talent. When a unit on the field has paralysis, paralysis is the strong control effect where the carrier stops and remains unable to cast ultimate, active skills, basic attacks or move during the effect, so pretty much a stun, a paralysis. Then when that happens, the Formless, which is the boss, absorbs the electrical current to restore 10% energy, so he should have like an energy meter. When the HP drops to 40%, its backup power is activated, granting 4 seconds of invincibility and instantly filling its energy to maximum, cannot be triggered while dormant. Big question here again, is this going to trigger at all during Nightmare, or is there going to be a different way around it? Because as we all know, in Nightmare, HP bars are pretty much endless. Then we have pretty straightforward a swipe. He just does a claw swipe, dealing physical damage in a cone. The special magnetic cloud gathers electric clouds along the densest line of targets, meaning the highest density of units together. There he's going to strike, dealing physical damage and inflicting the paralysis for 2 seconds, which then also allows him to restore this electric current. After the battle begins, he periodically summons 5 worker bees. These worker bees are immobile, but they deal physical damage to random targets. When a worker bee dies, all remaining worker bees immediately restore the HP to 100%. That leaves the question of what if you kill all of them at the same time, right? If you hit all of them with a big AoE at the same time, like Lemine, what happens then? But overall, yes, you kill one and then all of a sudden all of them become 100%, and then after 20 seconds, so you have 20 seconds to deal with them, the Formless absorbs all energy from the remaining worker bees, and based on how many there still are, he deals physical damage to all enemy targets. Each worker bee increases that damage dealt and also restores 20% energy. And now this is where it gets interesting. If no worker bees are absorbed, meaning you've killed them all, he gains a vulnerability for 20 seconds, meaning it is very much in your best interest to kill all worker bees because you're going to be doing 25% more damage. Then we also have the sweeping fall. The Formless swings its arm to strike the ground, dealing physical damage to all targets and applying 3 stacks of induction. So the part about this induction is when applied, you deal the damage, and then after reaching 8 stacks, it converts into a 3-second paralysis, which means currently the only unit in the game to do so, besides Fleeting Bella I guess, is Seth. Seth is going to be able to stop the induction, clear the induction, which means he's not going to trigger paralysis, so he should also not be gaining any energy right here. How relevant is that? We shall see. But this is by far the most interesting, and that is if his energy bar fills up to 100%, he enters into the cannon mode. So in the cannon mode, he exposes its energy core and then deals physical damage. During the cannon mode, he attacks the unit with the highest max HP and fires plasma beams, dealing heavy physical damage, meaning a tank resistant to physical damage is pretty much going to be advised here. Now it's going to be interesting is if it's a Bella, does he shoot the puppets, does he shoot them not? And then here, when energy reaches 0, the Formless leaves cannon mode and clears all degradation. This degradation is quite important because every shot gives it degradation, and what degradation does is all damage taken increases by 2%, meaning the more shots he does, the more damage he takes. And that works together with when you destroy the energy core during this whole thing, he'll enter a dormancy state during which he will keep all degradation stacks for 15 seconds. So that leaves the question, is it better to have him shoot and then destroy the core after, so that he builds up degradation stacks and keeps them? Or is it better to just destroy him straight away, which most likely is going to be the case with Timeless Aeona? But overall, the best seems to be to combine degradation stacks with the vulnerability phase after killing his worker bees, which should then yield the best damage results. And the part that's interesting here and that we haven't yet seen before in Prophecy at all is this concept right here of these worker bees actually dying, right? When a worker bee dies, and that opens up a couple interesting units. So before we get into like the interesting units, let's briefly rattle through how this works, right? Keep in mind, today, 8 hours after reset is when this unlocks. So you want to do your attacks every single day, otherwise you're going to be lagging behind and it's going to take, you're going to miss out on like a day of tier 5 rewards. But yes, day 1 you're going to be able to clear stage 1 and 2, day 2 you're going to be able to clear stage 3 and 4, and then day 5 you can clear stage 5 as well as the nightmare mode. Day 3, my bad, you can then clear the nightmare mode too. Nightmare mode is what this is all based on, and the higher you rank in the nightmare mode, the better your gem rewards up to a certain percentage. So outside of that, let's talk units. So the units that are going to be interesting here, outside of obviously Timeless Iona, let's say it how it is, Timeless Iona is absolutely going to be key here. There's not going to be a way around it. Now, an interesting question is, they did say the bees were immobile, but does that mean they can't be moved or they can't move themselves? Because if you can move and pull them all together, then Agnes is definitely going to have a place here. If they can't be moved, it's going to be a bit more challenging. It stands to reason that maybe for the first time ever, Lemine actually becomes useful, and that is because of this talent right here. When a Blood Servant dies, Lemine gains a stack of Blood Frenzy. Blood Frenzy increases the Blood Soul recovery by 200 and the magic damage by 10%, overall doubling the Blood Soul recovery that Lemine herself has, which, if you translate it into stats, is a 20% permanent Blood Soul recovery increase from 5,000 to 6,000 if you have Lemine in your team. And this also only works if you inflict them with the Blood Servant state through her ultimate. So if Lemine kills enough of these worker bees with her ultimate, she's actually going to increase your Blood Soul recovery, meaning you're going to be able to spam more ultimates, and you also obviously enter into that vulnerability phase. So Lemine might very well for the first time ever be on the menu when it comes to interesting units. Transcendent Hearty again remains to be seen, right? Depending on if you can pull them together, it's going to be more likely. If you can't pull them together, it's going to be less likely. Proper tests then again only on Nightmare difficulty. Noah also right here, after every 2 basic attacks he steals the Shades, but what is important to keep in mind is when units other than Shades are defeated, he summons a Shade. Which means if you kill a worker bee, you're going to be able to summon a Shade for Noah. Van Helsing has the ability to keep his ultimate going as long as he gets kills. Meaning that if these worker bees die to a Van Helsing ult, Van Helsing can pretty much perma ult. And let's see, are there any other examples of like really useful units dying? How can you forget about Stella? Stella obviously having an ultimate cost 4, but then if she attacks a unit, even with the ultimate, and inflicts them with stasis, the next ultimate will be reduced by 1 Blood Soul based on how many units they defeated. If there's 5 bees, you use the ultimate, you apply stasis to them, the bees then die, all of a sudden her next ult is free. Let's see, is there anybody else who's really interested in having units die where it's actually somewhat beneficial? I think Spectral Gilrain. It doesn't really make too much of a difference, but if you kill a unit with Spectral Gilrain, he's going to be able to summon another Shadow Apparition, though I don't believe it's going to make much of a difference. And then outside of that, let's see, is there anybody else specifically that is looking for units to die? I don't think anything super specific about units that have to die for it to be good. But yeah, this is going to be the first chance for Stella and Julius to show us what they can do, and if Julius can take the throne of Mr. Van Helsing as the highest physical damage dealer in the game. So it's going to be interesting, and it remains to be seen on how this all works out. Peace!